All right, friends, coming in on the top 10 on the show, we have Alice, Genese, and Shaune Pony Heath of OV Stars. They have an EP out called Tuesdays. It's coming out April 23rd on all streaming platforms with a vinyl to be released. Alice and Pony were a lot of fun. This conversation at times may get a little confusing just because of how the phones were set up. But they were a lot of fun, and it was a real special. They have a special connection in talking with them and like diving into their writing process and like just how they work as a group. You really get that. Listening to this conversation, you're gonna pick up on being a third wheel as well, and it's in a good way. Like there's not too many groups that members have that special connection like that. Just then when you interact with them without music that you pick up on that. So this was a lot of fun, and there's a lot of insightful nuggets in here. We're going to listen to the track Better Things off Tuesdays, and this I think will play out later because like this track really kind of, I think, shows what they do as a group. They take tragedy and try to find the better things in it. So here we go. Better Things off Tuesdays, OV Stars. All right, Better Things, Tuesdays EP, OV Stars. Cool stuff, right? So if you guys can like, rate, review the podcast on one of the podcast platforms, doesn't matter which one, any of them, it goes a far way, helps me keep talking to cool guests and sharing their insights with you. And without further ado, here's my conversation with Alice and Pony. Tuesdays. I think that's like there's something special that comes out of like days of the week when you have like a thing, like a rehearsal or a meeting or a song, like a writing session, whatever it is you're into, like a day like Tuesday, because personally I find Tuesday to be the most unbearable day of the week because everyone at work, all the kids are losing their minds. They're like, Monday we accepted that we're back, but now it's Tuesday and it's not Friday. You know what I mean? And even all the people I work with are
Tuesday
dragging.
is like you make peace with it, but are you making peace with it? You know?
You're just getting through, and like so Tuesday's always been a rough, but it's things like the rehearsals at the end of the night or what may be like. So how'd you? Let's kind of build the narrative of how you guys met, and then like build up to that. So I know you guys each had your own songwriting like endeavors going on. When did the paths cross, and when did Tuesday become the day?
Well, Pony and I met when I moved to Asbury Park, and I moved to Ocean Grove actually, but I'm a few blocks away from Asbury Park.
Okay.
I had been in psychic TV for about 17 years or 16 years, and the singer Genesis Shaune was diagnosed with leukemia, and I think just to sort of keep my mind steady and my emotions intact, I felt like I really needed to start writing music. My brother actually introduced me to Pony and suggested to Pony that we connect and try to write. So, sometime during that time, we became friends, and
we became friends first and then started writing only later, much later.
Yeah. And Tuesdays was the day that Pony had off to write. And I am pretty much a freelance artist, jeweler, musician, so my schedule can be pretty flexible. And Tuesdays just became the day.
Got it. Well, being freelance, it's like it's flexible, but also you're constantly working, and everything is like there's no time off.
I never stop working. Like it doesn't.
It just means morning. Freelance just means I'm willing to work in the middle of the night as well.
Yeah, there's not much free about it because it's like anytime you get
there's nothing free. It's nothing free about it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm constantly chasing a dollar bill, and it definitely is. But honestly, I also feel really grateful because it does give me the time to do the things that I love to do, and I do love to write music, and I do love to play music, and I miss the ability. I haven't played live since February of 2020, when I played live at the Transparent Danny Clinch Gallery.
Wow.
And then, I felt like the whole world ended. The singer and my previous band in Psychic TV passed and dropped her body in March. Actually, it'll be March 14th tomorrow. And then, we were in lockdown. And I just feel like I'm just starting to sort of realize that, Pony and I are going to start playing live shows again. It's really exciting.
That's awesome.
Yes, we are.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 20. It was such a void, and when doing the freelance thing, it's like whenever you have any free time, you're like, okay, this is when I write the next thing so I can bring it to the band so we can figure out if we're recording it, or this is when I add the next chapter to the novel or update the blog or whatever. When you're doing the freelance thing, there's like any gap of time is that you have that constant voice in your head, like this could be something that's going to pan out later, which is,
constantly working on something, and when you're like, okay, cool. So instead of watching a TV show, like it's kind of a sense of imposter syndrome,
right? Yeah.
Or not imposter, maybe even revenge, when you're like, but I could be working. Why are you not working? Because if you're freelance, like that's you're on your own clock, you're on your own time. So when you're writing, you feel this thing about like any time available to you in between, like sauteing onions and putting peppers in the pan. There's like 2 seconds where you could be writing, and then you feel either negatively or positively about it.
Yeah, definitely, and but that's one thing, you have to love doing that, because if not, it's like it's torture because it's endless.
People who create culture are just to live on the breadline. Don't do it because it's comfortable. They do it because they're compelled.
Right. Beautifully said. Yeah. No, I agree with that. And the kind of go back to I don't know, 2020 being like this void. It's like you have all the time to do that, but it's kind of that deadline that the show's next week. Having that kind of that helps that process. A little bit of that stress keeps that snare drum.
Parameters and borders, confinement boosts creativity.
Right.
It's like if you have an unlimited budget to create anything, there's no challenge in creating.
Right. Because it never ends. You could just keep perfecting
it. Never ends. You can do anything. Where if there's parameters, you have to work within the confines of that and make that actually shine.
Right. Pony, I'm getting a weird echo on your end.
I think maybe we need to move into different rooms. I'm going to go in my bedroom.
Okay, you go in the bedroom.
I have a feeling that you're hearing.
Okay, the back
through. I thought we were far enough away, but is this better? I just closed them out.
Better?
Yeah, that's 100% better.
Yeah,
that's so funny.
So she has to sit down and I have to pace.
He couldn't stop moving. I tried to keep him in the other room, but he wouldn't stop moving.
I can't sit.
I'm the same way. I whenever I'm planning something, I'm pacing around the room. I'm like, yeah, we can do that. And if we book that, that'll probably pan out.
Yeah, if I pace a little more, it's going to work out.
All right, this is much better.
Yeah, no, much better. I can hear what you're saying, because what you're saying, I think that was really profound, because you need that without that deadline, the 2020 rabbit hole just seemed endless, and especially I was coming from tragedy like that just I can't imagine that time being clearly productive, because it was just stressful as it is. So I think the first couple of weeks after my friend dropped her body were the hardest ones for me, because it was a time where this tragedy sort of happened, and not that it's a horrible tragedy when people die every day, but for me it was really sad. It was, Genesis was one of my closest friends, and a confidant, and we spent a lot of time together. I took a lot of I took care of her in a lot of ways. I took her to her chemo appointments, and and then there was this tremendous void, and I had to come home
to not having any comfort from anybody because we weren't holding each other. Nobody was hugging anymore. Everybody went into their own homes and shut the doors. And that was kind of it for I don't know, a good, I don't even know. Well, I mean, luckily for us, it wasn't a year because, you know, we live near the ocean, so we were able to actually get out and go for walks and, you know, and Pony, we were being cautious. We were still getting together. You know, maybe not early on in the pandemic, but, you know, certainly a few months in, we started getting together and writing again.
It was still working.
Yeah, and I felt like for me that was the healing part. You know, being able to have a partner and have some structure on Tuesdays was healing for me and a way to move forward. And you know, Pony, do you remember when it was it January of 2021 that I was just like, we need to just record what we've been doing?
Yeah, I think so. Where you were just like, screw this, let's do this. Yeah. Because we've been writing for a while where it was like there was no timelines or deadlines. The only parameter was we get together on Tuesdays, and on Tuesdays we write. Like nothing else exists. It's just us on Tuesdays writing. And then at one point we had a lot of what we think to be good material, and then she was just like, you know what? That's just like balls to the wall, babies. Let's just record. Let's just make a record. And then we started to like kind of distill it and refine in what we want to record. And we never stopped working. And then, I think it was January. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think
we have a record called Tuesdays, folks.
a big 5 songs, but it was
the biggest 5 songs you've ever heard.
we put all our hearts into it. So, and I'm pleased.
Yeah, they're 5 great songs for sure, and that like everything, the texture, the aside from the songwriting itself, the recording and the production of each tune is really well done. You can tell a lot of time is been put into each one.
That's Jeff Berner. Let's give kudos to Jeff Berner.
Jeff.
All hail Jeff Berner.
Yeah, but so Jeff was my bandmate in Psychic TV for I don't even know how many years. And when I decided to do a solo recording in 2013, Jeff was obviously the first person that I
Stick and Bones,
went
right?
to. Yeah, Sticks and Bones, and unfortunately, that my son played bass on that, and he dropped his body
I'm sorry.
in 2013, right before we were going to release it. So I went back into the studio and I recorded one more song, and then I think we put it out, or I put it out the following year in 2014. So I mean, there's definitely been a lot of like loss in my life that has led to some of the style of writing. And one of the reasons that I've really enjoyed writing with a partner, you know, I've been writing with bands most of my life, but writing with one partner has been really interesting because we sort of pull each other out of, I think that Pony and I both have sorrow in our writings. And I think when we write together, maybe it's still there a little bit, but I think we also kind of figure each other out of the mud.
I think we get to a place where instead of getting lost and overwhelmed in sorrow or in trauma or in grief, we find a way when we're standing next to each other to be able to articulate it in a way that's not more tangible, but more straightforward. Like all the bullshit is cut away. If that makes sense.
Right.
Where it doesn't get muddied up.
Right. And it's kind of like when you go through something like sharing or even if you're bummed out or stressed out about something, right, boiling it to like a less, like it feels good to be able to be like, Tuesdays, I'll tell you what, every Tuesday there's this guy. You know, you share that share that thing with somebody.
100%. It's like, just you fucking wait till Tuesday, you son of a bitch.
I mean, honestly, sometimes we just sit and drink wine and talk and bitch and cry.
Yeah.
And that's also part of the process, because I think if we didn't have it, and you know, and I'm going to use the word intimate, not in a profoundly sexual way, but if we didn't have that sort of an intimate bond or friendship, I don't think that we would be able to write the kind of music that we've been writing.
We are friends first. We are friends first above everything and anything else. We are friends first, and we honor that. And I think that translates in the work.
Definitely.
I think you can hear it, where it's like there's a kinship, there's a familial quality to it. Also, it's like, funny enough, our voices shouldn't work together, but they do. But they do, and they do so remarkably well for two voices that are so different. And I think there's an exchange of energy that happened way before recording the work, which is important.
That'll happen out in the stars.
I agree. It's interesting because like I dove into both individually what the music sounded like separate. Like Pony, some of your like Hallelujah, I Still Love Her is like completely, or Still Love You is still it's completely different than like Psychic TV, and like
we're not supposed to live in the same house, but here we're not.
But on Tuesdays, like the voices blend together in a way where like for a while I'm like, when I dove in without listening to individual, like to get a tone from each, I'm like I don't know who's doing what, like in a good way, like it just blends in, and like that's I think it's interesting, like when you find the peanut butter and chocolate that works, you know what I mean, like two separate things, but when they come together, it's just really good.
Thank you. She's peanut butter. I'm chocolate.
Okay. I'm not going to respond to that.
Thank you, because that it means a lot, because that's what we wanted to do. Also, there's not a thing where who's going to be in front, who's going to sing the next song. It's just organic. Oh, let's sing this song. Let's try it out. Whatever comes to the fore, that's what we're going to hand to the people listening to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like we both have very distinct voices. We both have I feel I don't sound like anyone specific. She doesn't sound like anyone specific. There's like lines you can draw to other voices, but I don't think in essence we sound like anyone else together or individually. So what we're doing is just trying to, if we make a song, if we make a piece of work, and we want to present it to other people, so that in my brain, the first thing I want people to get from this work is healing, or just understanding that someone is there with them, you know?
Yeah.
And if we, and so we're not going to let us get in the way of, oh, I need to sing this song because I feel this way about it. It's like we literally let the song dictate, after we've written it, who does it. And then we'll see how can I support the other.
Right.
So it's very much organic. It's very much an energy thing. It's very much to the purpose of our work is not for us. It's for all of us, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it's,
Yeah,
it's interesting because just the process you guys described Tuesdays panning out like resonates with the music like that. Like it even like it makes me think of like the last track on the better. I'm blanking right now. Hold on.
Better things.
Better things. Right.
Better things.
Like because it sounds like that healing process of just going through shitty things and then like focusing on the better thing, and like that's only possible with a friend, you know, or family or someone close, because it's really hard. It's easy to go down that tunnel vision.
I think it's also that thing where, as artists, as freelance people, as people who need to do other things to support their art, we also feel like we're doing something bad when we actually make time for ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think with Tuesdays, we actually, because out of my week, it was my day off, but I would be like, this is work. So it's actually forcing oneself to make time, to make work, to be engaged, to be creative. And working with Alice has kept me like accountable to that and not feeling like I'm doing something wrong. Because I come from a strange culture where we walk into an elevator, if someone's on the elevator, you immediately say sorry. You don't say hi, you say sorry. So actually taking Tuesdays and being like, this is my day. This is the day I'm working with Alice. We're making work, and you know what? This work is important. So you prioritizing the self, prioritizing the creative aspect of oneself. And I think that's what we did. And because she has such an immense amount of trauma and grief in her life, and I have a lot of trauma and grief in my life, the fact that we actually were able to keep each other accountable to each other to make work is important. And
I mean,
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I mean, it very much, I think, we both went on a personal journey together.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's something that many people get to do. And I felt incredibly grateful to have been able to have that experience with Pony. You know, even, you know, sometimes it gets really hard to write, and there's pressure, and there's, you know, like we'll sometimes sit there and it's like nothing is coming. And then sometimes we'll sit there and it's just like, it's just vomiting out of us, you know, like rapid fire. And I'm trying to write. He can't write. He can't, like, I cannot give him the pen.
I can write,
read
but
his
he
writing.
can't read what I'm writing.
So I'm like sitting there writing, and I'm writing what I'm thinking. I'm writing what Pony's thinking. And, you know, and I've usually got the guitar up, and then like he'll grab the guitar and then he's writing. And it's just, you know, sometimes it's a frenzy like of writing. And then we have to sit there and figure out what the hell we've just done.
Yeah, but I'm not allowed to use the pen. The pen.
No,
I'm not.
Yeah, that's my, he's lost his right.
Pen privileges.
He's lost his rights to writing.
Fair. I have horrible handwriting, so I'm there with
I should have been
you.
a doctor.
Yeah, there you go. Oh boy.
But that's because like writing, because I've been trying to develop a writing habit for myself, and like I try to do like every other day for an hour with no expectations. You know, just spend an hour, write a thing. It may just be a chord progression, it may be a verse, whatever, but just to constantly keep at it and just to keep trying to come up with things with no expectations. But the process to do that with another person, now it's like an event in a way. So like for me that seems it seems so much more difficult. But I maybe like I bet you guys can sell me on it not being more difficult. Because I imagine, like, if like when I'm like trying to do that on my own, I think of a subject, right, or a narrative, or a song seed, like a line that pops into your head, right, and kind of just focus on that. Is that kind of like when it gets down to like really, really when you're in the flow of it, and like Pony's not writing but saying stuff, and you're writing what he's saying. Is that kind of how, like, do you have like a structured kind of like, this is what we do on Tuesdays to get things rolling? I
mean, I kind of think that's like each of us can answer that question in a different way. I think for me, writing is a very organic process, and it just bubbles. Like it doesn't, I don't think I'm going to write about this today. It just generally will just bubble up.
Okay.
And I don't have anything. I have sometimes really very little control over what's going to come out of my mouth. Honestly, I wake up.
I can confirm.
Yeah. I mean, I wake up sometimes in the middle of the night and I have to sing things into my phone because they're just there and they won't go away. And if I don't sing them into my phone, I'm not going to sleep that night. I call it my radio head. There's always some kind of music playing in my head, and sometimes it feels torturous and sometimes it's wonderful, because sometimes I get great music and sometimes I write it down and I'm like, that was really terrible. But you know, it is part of my process. And I think because and I might be wrong, Pony is more formally, I have had some formal training, but Pony has had far more formal training than I have. And so I think that
I'm also a little more obsessive compulsive.
Yeah, I think his process is a little more, and he is, I think that you are more of a controlled writer. I think I'm pretty out of control. And
I do, because she's, how you do automatic writing? And you just automatically write, and then you find phrases and things that exist within it.
Yeah.
She's that kind of a writer.
Okay.
Where I'm not calculated, but because I have kind of a tendency towards a compulsion to, what do you call it, obsessive compulsive behavior, I will have patterns or sentences or phrases or things that get stuck in my head. So I will go over and over and over and over and over, where it would be incomplete patterns, but I will hear the pattern over and over and over until I find a resolution for it.
Interesting.
But within writing with her, I couldn't do that, because the other thing is doubting oneself and not having confidence in one's own work. If I was like, oh, my work is shit, but now I'm working with her. If I say my work is shit in the work I'm doing with her, then I'm saying her work is shit, and I can't do that. So it actually forced me to get out of that trauma-induced self-deprecating behavior, where it was, okay, cool, now you actually have to look at the work for what it is, not for what you think you are, because you're different. You're not part of the work. The work is separate. And now working with her allowed me to do that. When we got together on a Tuesday, we sit here, we write, whatever comes out. I can't think about all these patterns and behavior and sentences and things that bug my brain, because that's all on me. And it's this whole new world of just coming together. I play piano. I don't play the guitar. This record was written on guitars. And
I'm a bass player. I mean, I play
she's
guitar,
a bass player.
I'm a bass player, and we rewrote this whole record on guitars. And we're both not the greatest guitar players.
We're not. It's embarrassing.
So I'm just going to say thank you, Jeff Berner, once again.
To get back to what you said earlier, sorry about Jeff Berner, before we get away from it, the textures that you talked about on the production of this record, literally Jeff Berner. We went in there and we're like, Jeff. Also, I put on my big boy pants for the first time and made a real record with this lady that was in a really important band, with this guy that was in a really important band, that has this really, really like a big boy studio. And walk in there, and at first it's like, I want this for the record. And then Jeff's like, hi, I'm Jeff. And I'm like, Jeff, what do you want for the record? Yeah. So I just have to give like a shout out, kudos to him. Like we all the time through the recording, and let go and let Jeff. The man knows, he knows what an octagon is. I trust him.
I mean, also for me, being in Psychic TV was like being in this crazy big chosen family, right? Like, none of us had to be there, but it was like some of the best experiences of my life. And honestly, Genesis Peerage is one of the most brilliant people I've ever known, and one of the most loving people I've ever known in my life. And I've had so much encouragement and so much support from her. And it felt really important to me, if I was going to do something after Psychic TV, that I really honor that sense of family. And, going to Jeff and also having, pretty much everybody who worked on this recording had worked with Psychic TV in one way or another. So whether it was, being, in the band as a full-time member, or, having toured with the band once or twice, or having, driven a vehicle with the band or done sound, everybody was involved in that. Everybody that was involved had been a part of that extended family, of that chosen family that I lived with for, almost 2 decades of my life. So, for me, that was really important to go home again.
Right. Well, and like just how you said, those bonds and those the chances that that you meet this person and they help you with this thing, which is expressing yourself and like obtaining this goal of self-expression with multiple people for a extended period of time is such a blessing, and to be around people that are just motivated. Like it's such a to have the will to want to write in general and want to do something like that and find the importance within it, to kind of elaborate on what Pony was saying, is such a special thing. And like as freelance burdened, constantly self-burdened, self-driven individuals, like it's there's nothing else you would rather do. And those people that got you to that point to decide that that's what you want to do and this is how I can do it are so important. And supporting them doing that same thing in their own way, if it's Jeff with the studio or whoever filled in on violin, you know what I mean? Like whoever that, like I think it's a really crucial thing to support the roots, to keep the tree going,
Agreed.
So that's beautiful. It's interesting, like that you started on your main's bass and Pony's main's piano, like because those are two different worlds completely to learn how to musically like replicate and express yourself. And both of them are kind of
true.
both, especially with bass. Like I find bass very hard to be like really hard to write a song off of it, because a lot of times bass is kind of like supportive of what's already written, and piano is like I can see where like maybe like some of the pattern things that you find yourself like OCDing about, or like going down that thought process about. Like I can see, piano is like kind of set up for that, like because it's very like
piano is
clear
perfect
out.
for it. You're obsessive compulsive. Buy a piano.
But as far as like songwriting tropes or just even like practices in which you would find yourself being expressive or allowing yourself to be expressive, because like to kind of like focus on piano, a lot of the music you start with is classically trained, right? And there's not a lot of room for improv within that, or like it's more like learning how it works and learning how music works and seeing all that, and that can be very like here's the structure here, so like that your writing process by yourself with trying to find like where phrases fit, like is that just like syllabolically, is that like just like a written word, like is that looking at like poetically in a way, like seeing where the syllables fit and how that fits in with the rhythm with the next line, or is that musically?
Yes. If I write on a piano, I'm playing while I'm singing, and the way that Alice would just write, or like automatic writing, I will sometimes sit and record myself while I'm playing the piano, just singing words. And then sometimes this word just comes out in these sentences that are like, oh, the universe just gave me a gift.
Yeah.
And it just works out. But I think remember earlier I spoke about if you have parameters within which you have to work, or like a budget.
Right.
Okay, like Alice is a jeweler. I want a wedding ring. I have this amount of money. Can you make me a wedding ring for that? You get creative. And I think with us not writing on a piano specifically, because the world is open to me there, or her on a bass, where we're on guitars, now we're not, what is the word in my language? It's back in. The boundaries are set. So it's like, okay, cool. You've been given this. What are you going to make within these confines that is going to be bigger than these confines are? And I think that's what we did by writing with guitars. Also, I was tired of carrying a giant piano on my back all the way to Ocean Grove across the bridge.
Yeah, it's
so
about
maybe
10
I was
blocks.
just lazy. But I think it aided in us not hyper-focusing on the technicality of playing an instrument, but actually to focus on the core of the emotional, spiritual, and energy value of what the work actually is.
And
do not get lost.
Yeah. And I think that definitely comes through with everything on the record. Because I'm trying to think, even on that first song, there's like this rhythmic bit that's on the guitar. I don't know if that was it's kind of like a tapped out beat, I feel. I don't know if that was a Jeff thing or if that was how you guys recorded it, or going into it or like wrote it. But like, that's interesting.
I'm gonna say it's us. It's always us.
Yeah, that was definitely how it was written.
Okay, because like coming from two instruments that aren't your own, it doesn't come off like that. So I'm saying, like, as a guitar player, I'm like, oh, that's a cool move.
Thank you.
You know, like that's a cool, like, okay, I can see someone looping that live and building off of that. All right, like.
I mean, you know, Jeff did lay down all the tracks because I definitely was like, you know, you're a much better guitar player. I'm very happy to like let go, and here it's written, you have it, and you know, put it down, and you know, pretty much I wrote most of the bass parts for it too, and also he played it, so I just send him what was in my head, and he would just replicate it, and
that's fine,
you know, because unfortunately that's I do hear I can be a little bit controlling when I hear something in my head and I really want it to be that.
Yeah.
I maybe not controlling, but it's just like the song has to have the parts that I'd like it to have. So I'm open in some regard, but then as a bass player, there are times where I'm like, I really want it to be like what I want it to be in the bass part. So, but that worked out great because it wasn't like, you know, I feel
Jeff
like
Jeff is amazing at that. Jeff is amazing at that.
Well, I was also going to say, I think that everybody let go of ego. Like this wasn't a project about ego. This was a project about how do we get to the best place that we can get with whatever money that we had to be able to do it with, because money is always going to be a factor in any kind of recording. And, you know, and it's self-funded. There's no record label. It's, you know, Pony and I are both struggling artists, and you know, I'm much older, so I have a little bit more security behind me, but not much more, and I'm still freelance, and like I said, you know, we're always chasing dollars, you know, so there is a limit on how much can be spent, but for me it was just really important to try to utilize what we had to get the best we possibly could get. And I think because it was, you know, we did do this as a family in some ways, or as a chosen family, you know, and for me, like, there's a sense of being able to relax. I know for Pony, it was different because it was the first time that Pony's been in the studio. This is a studio that I've spent a lot of years in. Like, I've recorded with Psychic TV in the studio, in that same room. We've rehearsed in that studio. So for me, I felt like I was going home.
I was terrified.
I will confirm that.
I was terrified because we were going to run with big dogs now, and we were supposed to ease me into it the first day of recording, and we were going to do Alice's song first, and I could chill out and relax, and then it was sprung on me that, no, kid, you're first.
Well, that's interesting. So, like, when you've recorded your own stuff, Pony, because it's the stuff you've recorded sounds like it's professionally done. Was that not in the studio?
It's professionally done, but there's a difference between a studio and a fucking studio. You know what I mean? It's like, it's also all of the other recordings I've done is like, oh, I have some studio time left. Do you want to come lay a song down? And then it's just me singing while I'm playing piano quickly, and like, okay, cool, that's fine, great. And then I'm like, I'm just going to throw it into the ether and hope it sticks. And but this was very different because this was super. These are professionals, man.
There were a lot of knobs. There were a lot of knobs.
I was like, there are so many knobs, and I'm intimidated by all the knobs. And yeah, and even with Alice, if she wasn't my friend and I had to work with her, I also didn't know who Alice was. I didn't know she plays music, cool. Leo, her brother, said to me, oh, you should meet my sister. You should write with my sister. I'm like, everyone wants me to write with their sister because they want me to play a goddamn piano while they fucking sing. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Meet this lady. Who are you? Okay, you're cool. Love you. Just by the way. And then it turned into this thing like, oh, she's actually a big deal. And these people she's working with, and I only realized this as I walked into the studio on recording day, it became a reality. And I'm like, oh, fuck me. Just fuck me. And then, Alice, you were supposed to go first. They're like, no, pony up to the mic.
It was just, it was really what was going to work better for the studio time that day.
but actually, it couldn't have been. It's one of those things where the universe comes together and says, okay, cool. So this is how we're going to structure this for you because you're going to make the best possible outcome with this. If it worked out anywhere else, it would have. I don't think it would have been as impactful or powerful.
Right.
Because it also had. There's some. I think the song we recorded was "Crying Time," and there's a vulnerability.
Yeah. That
even I was like, fuck, you can actually hear it. And I think that wouldn't have been there as much and as powerfully there as if I was comfortable. I think in the discomfort, there was beauty that was created.
Right.
And I also have to say that you took that in one take, and we did have you do another take of your vocals, but we were blown away. Like everybody in the studio was like, "Oh my gosh!"
You did a one take, Jake.
What just happened in there? Yeah.
Things of legend.
Also, I don't know.
I mean, we did a backup, but like it was remarkable. It literally was remarkable. It's rare that you see anything like that in the studio. And believe me, I've been in the studio a lot in my lifetime.
And apparently that day I had 3 lungs.
Yeah. Yes, you did.
But anyway,
I mean, it was remarkable.
Actually, I also just want to say I'm so humbled and grateful and honored to be able to walk in. She paid me $1,000, but to walk into that place with that family and be accepted and be acknowledged as an artist, just to be acknowledged, never mind anything else. It's just the best people. The biggest open arms, the biggest, warmest hug ever. They're all just like, I'm so gross right now, but it's just walking in there and being acknowledged is that's to me is like, I can die now. Fine. God, take me,
Yeah. But also talent is talent and talent stands on its own.
Right.
And, and if you have talent, Pony, you clearly have talent. Like, of course you should be there. It's not like that. This was supposed to happen. This was born in, it was born of stars, right? It's born of stars. Like this is what was supposed to happen. We were destined somehow to meet. I had to have, whatever tragedies that I had to have to make me move from my home across from, in Hoboken, across from New York City to come live by the ocean so that I could heal my heart. And you were one of the people that I met, and, I think our bond formed rather quickly, and I don't really understand why or how, but it did, and I'm super grateful for that.
I feel like that was a glimpse of Tuesdays. Like, I feel like I got to sit in a little bit on how that
literally.
Yeah, it was.
That's beautiful.
It really was. Thank you.
Okay, to touch on a couple things, Pony. Being in the studio, for sure, when you go into the room, you're like, oh shit, they have a sound booth. Fuck. This is money. Money's time now. Like, there are more knobs than I know. They have it looks nice. There's definitely a vibe. I agree 100% with that. And also, when you do play piano, everyone needs a piano player. So you get hit up a lot. So I can also understand where you're coming from when someone wants to see you as an artist, not just as like, oh, sweet, okay, this is a 1-4-5, just roll with me, and I'm gonna cover, I don't know, whatever. So that's really cool. And to kind of like get some background a little bit, because Hoboken, like, the scene was there. So like that. Hoboken was like this, it's like this magic blurb of like badassery music and like individualism. So like Pony, coming from like you grew up in South Africa, right?
Yes.
Okay, so like coming from this different culture, you kind of touched upon it a little bit, where like you say sorry when you go by somebody, like they kind of dive into this realm with Alice in this with in this scene that's like kind of like supporting all this like the Feelies are like a huge band here, like
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, as far as like to gauge individual like expression and celebrating it, did like and coming from classically trained, which that's kind of like suppressed a little bit.
I started as classically trained. I'm not fully classically trained. That's it. But
You don't you just need a little bit.
But you see how culturally I'm like, I'm fine, but I'm not good enough, you know?
Right. So
Everything's okay. It's like, so with the, like, as in Hoboken, where everyone is like, I can't speak to the scene, but the stories that Alice has told me and that some of her friends and people that I've met from there, it's very much this weirdly amazing, supportive scene where everyone is just trying to like, you make music, cool. Doesn't matter if you're shit or not. Everyone just like boost each other because you know what? You're fucking trying. Good on you.
right.
Yeah.
And there's that attitude, which is amazing. And then I come from a place where it's like, it's very, like, it's not like that. It's not like that at all. And, like I feel strange. Like if someone is like, oh, you're talented. I'm like, what do you want from me? Here's my wallet. You know what I mean? Leave me alone now. You have my wallet. You can go. Thank you. So the nurturing nature of that whole Hoboken feel, I think, is so 100% embedded in Alice. And because even if in any partnership, whether it be marriage, friendship, sibling, whatever, there's going to be ups and downs.
Right.
But it doesn't matter how, even if we butt heads, even if we disagree about something, if either of us does something that the other one doesn't agree with, there's still always upliftment, always support. There's always loyalty. There's always there's trust, and it's always to uplift the other one. It's never like, oh, you were a fuckhead, great, but I'm still going to support you. I'm still going to uplift you. You know what I mean? And I think that's probably the product of where she's from. And I mean, inherently it's who she is, but it's also where she's from.
But it's such a yin and yang for you guys as a unit. Like just kind of hearing everything right now and hear it's like even just writing growth, like when you work with someone and learning to kind of let go and accept things for what they are, and then maybe learning to kind of be more structured and kind of like fine tune some details. Like it definitely comes off on these 5 songs after you're like diving into, like how I was saying, I dove in individually and kind of like just sampled bits of everything you guys did. More of bits from Alice, because your career goes, there's way more bands and way more records to dive into, but that's just this product of, well, yeah, it's a product of doing it longer, you know, and like, but it's a beautiful combination on these 5 songs, and like it just hearing the process of it, like that's so cool, because like that's like there's a certain what's the word I'm looking for? There's a certain means or field of success that you get from indulging in things like this. Like when you define a successful musician in any type of culture, usually there's a financial number behind it, or artist, let's say.
Yes.
Usually there's a financial thing behind it. But when it's not, there's all these things within the process that you may never get to that financial point, but there's all these other things that lead to being even more successful, or even more like we've made it within these. There's a certain richness. That's what I'm looking for. that comes from attempting to do this, and that's it. That's like finding comfort and being able to express shitty things with your friends so they become less shitty. Or there's like the learning how to like dial back like the tunnel vision and being able to accept it for what it is, because when you look back on it, it was still a fun show, or whatever that is. Like that's a certain magic that and a certain richness that only comes from like a relationship like this. And just like being a third wall right now is amazing. And I think that what I'm trying to say is I think that comes off on the record, at least in my opinion.
Thanks.
But what were you going to say?
This record was also not made. This record wasn't made for money. I hope it sells 1 million and we make $1,000 gazillion dollars. But the record wasn't made for money, And I think you can tell. You can tell.
Well, I mean, I'm going to go so far as to say I think this record was made for love, and
yes,
and for honesty. Like I think that. Sometimes people say, are you going to retire? What are your plans? And my feeling is like, what am I going to retire from? Like everything that I do in my life is part of who I am. Like I am a musician. I have always been a musician, back probably as long as I can remember, I've been writing songs. And even before I knew that I was a musician, I was writing songs in my head as a child. I would write songs in my head. It has always been a part of me and always has been who I am. And I think that whether I'm recording songs or not recording songs, it is always going to be a part of me. And the music that I've written has always been honest. It's never really been, I don't know what the word is. Contrived. Yeah. Maybe contrived. Yeah. No, but I mean, it has, I'm not trying to write, could I have written a hit song in my life? Maybe I could have. I don't know. I've never really tried.
There's nothing wrong with writing a hit song or wanting to write a hit song. There's nothing wrong with that. But this is not what we are right now.
I think I just always wanted to write what was in my heart to write. And that was always what was important to me. And I was lucky. I did come up in a certain time in, maybe in the early 80s around New York City where, I remember being out at the Mud Club one night as a teenager, like maybe 18 or 19 years old. And I saw this band called ESG, and it was, these women from uptown New York and playing. And I just was so enamored by them and so in love with what they were doing. And that gave me the courage to go out and decide that I was going to buy a bass and I was going to be a bass player. And I literally, picked up a bass, and that was it. I started playing with my friend Karen, and we became a band called Gut Bank back in those days. And then we were signed by Coyote Records, and it just like everything for me has been so organic, and it has never been easy. And yet maybe it has been easier than it has been for other people, because we did get some of those breaks, but we always really worked hard. Like I've always, I remember when we were 22 and we'd be out driving around the country in a van, and we'd pull up to a city, and you'd have to use a payphone to call the club to ask for directions, because there was no such thing as a GPS, right? And we're at that point, we're 3 women by ourselves. Right. And young, our drummer at that point was like 6 years younger than we were. So she was like 17, 16, and we're 22, 23. And here we are driving around. And luckily, we did have our friend Bill Ryan, who was our manager, would often come out, not always, but he would often come out on the road with us to kind of protect us. But, there were times where we would just like go up to strangers at the end of the show and be like, hey, do you have an extra room we can crash in for the night? And when I think about this now, I'm like, why am I not dead? Why have I not been murdered? I don't even understand how this was my life and how we did these things.
I like you not murdered.
But seriously, when you think about that, as someone who has been a parent, I couldn't imagine thinking of my daughter or son, for that matter, doing these things. And it was just sort of like, this is what we did. But and it wasn't that I trusted people, because I don't really trust people for the most part. But this was the world that I was living in. And this is, it just felt like this is what we had to do. And we had no money. And we weren't making very much money. It was like, if you got gas money and food money, you're happy.
Right.
And
But it's the thing, we're artists, it's that thing, it's not being motivated to do it, it's you're compelled.
Right.
No, we're
You're
driven.
just
Right.
100% compelled, which makes you driven, which makes you just go out and do it.
And be crazy.
Yes.
And make really bad decisions.
But that's an inherent thing. That's not new. That's in your house for years.
That is true. That is very true. Good times and bad decisions. We're all about it.
But that's that's the part of the hustle is like there's no clear path to do the thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, especially when like a scene like Hoboken pops up, you know what I mean? Like there's so much going on, and like the whole thing is like how do you expand this? Let's go out of town. And like, you know what I mean? Like there's no wrong way to do it, but there's also no right way to do it. So like it just becomes a lot of work for sure.
I came to a conclusion like 3 days ago. 3 days ago. I was like, okay, cool. So thinking about my life, I was like, I'm playing a game of dominoes. If you line them up, if you knock the one, all of them will fall. You're not playing dominoes. It's actually a game of chess, and you're the second to move. So you're always playing a defense game where you have to adjust. And I think that's how this works, music and art and creative, anything. It's like you're always on the defense, and you have to readjust and readjust and readjust your gameplay in order for you to either win or lose.
Right. Or just even keep
and I
playing.
think that just to keep playing, just to keep going at it, because you were never the first to move. As an artist, you're the second to move.
Yeah.
Someone made the first move, and you're not following them, but you're readjusting to their gameplay, because that's how life works.
Yeah. That's
cool.
cool.
You know?
Yeah, that's awesome. Was it
and profound.
That is. That is profound. That's awesome. Was the domino thing always something you kind of like thought about? Was that like a metaphor that you're always?
Yes.
Interesting.
I thought like if you line them up
it should
correctly,
yeah,
it should pan out. It has to. And then I was like, because I'm dealing with a lot of stuff like from in my country and here, where I'm dealing with familial things that I have to figure out. And then I was like, shit, this is not just lining things up. That's not how it works. This is readjusting and adapting. That thing, adapt or die, it's a whole thing.
Right. I had an interesting. It was kind of a Bruce Lee bit, but I read the opportunity arose at work, at the school I work at. A kid had a plastic fork, right, and like was like pounding it on the desk, and it's like it won't break. I'm like, yeah, why do you think it won't break? And like he's like, it's too bendy. I'm like, exactly. If we're flexible, friends, we can withstand a lot of things. You know, if we're stiff and rigid, we won't. And he was like
I want to be a plastic fork.
and he was like, huh? Like, I
That's
thought,
amazing.
I thought it was a profound, opportune moment, but I think it missed. But
Oh my God!
back,
Next tattoo ideas. Next tattoo, bendy fork.
bendy fork. Well, I'm sure there's more like you can be like, I don't know, like the bamboo is like a bendy tree, like there's probably more like tattoo bendy.
No, this bendy fork is for me. I am with this kid, and he's like, this kid is my new guru.
Bendy fork kid.
I will follow Bendy Fork Kid into the dark. I will.
Well, that's a song lyric right there. We just wrote our next song.
All right, when song 6 comes out and it's called Bendy Fork, I'm gonna a happy tear will drop from my
You're
eye.
actually gonna get you'll get publishing rights. Trust me. We're those people. You get at least 3%.
I get there's four sporks or whatever on a fork. I get four.
Yes,
There you go. You
Point,
get
0.4.
It's funny.
Can I?
That's amazing.
So, was it budget reason or Was it like these were the top 5 songs, which is why you went with these 5 songs? Like,
Oh, it's budget.
oh, it was budget? Okay.
It was budget. Yeah, I mean,
it was budget, but it's also like these were like
Cream of
the
the
5
crop.
songs that spoke to us.
Got it.
Yeah.
Is there plans to do a 5 more eventually, or a full length?
I would like to.
Are you
we don't have
investing?
Say what?
Are you investing?
I got my fork lyric, and that's about all I got so far.
Well, that's investing.
No,
I mean, I think that we have material, and we will probably continue to write. We haven't been writing lately because we've been focusing on releasing and doing all of the things that lead up to releasing and doing photos, which I hate doing, but we do.
Yeah,
all of that garbage back end stuff that you have to do. Luckily, we have really, really talented friends that have been helping us out with all of those. Like props to Nick Kiefer and props to Sarah Stettmiller in the Asbury Park area.
They're princes amongst men, and not in a sarcastic manner.
And women. So we have some great photographer friends who helped us out in that area.
Yeah, Sarah Stadmiller, who did the cover, phenomenal. With I think the camera is it's this giant, large format camera that's over 100 years old.
Huh.
She did the album artwork. We were standing on this, I don't know, some weird industrial concrete pylon out in the ocean. Here in Ocean Grove by Alice's house, and we're standing there, and the tide is coming in,
and one of us fell in, but I'm not going to say which one.
No, it's not a vibe. No one needs to know. But and it was glorious, and she was a champ because we also did this shoot, and she got it was kind of a perfect storm where it was the light, the tide, where we were standing, the wind, everything. It was literally a 15-minute shoot. It was ridiculous. And everything was just it was pow, 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 and everything just came out. We have so many good images from a very short frame of time. And also, her camera only, I think, takes 10 pictures at a time.
It's one frame of film goes in at a time. So I think she used maybe 10 frames.
Yeah. But it was amazing. She is a queen. She and the best person, just the best human.
That's the scene. Everyone's supporting each other. It's amazing.
It really is.
So you guys were talking about at the beginning some live stuff coming up. Or at least, is it planned out, or do you have some dates?
We do have some dates.
Okay, let's do a plug.
Playing. All right, so April 24th at Danny Clinch Transparent Gallery in Asbury Park.
Okay.
I don't know the time yet, but generally those start in the afternoon.
Okay.
And we will a Sunday afternoon, vibe, listening and playing music and hanging out and.
And Danny Clinch is an incredibly talented photographer who, is here in the Asbury Park area and opens up his gallery for performers to perform live. And, it's just a really great way to spend the Sunday afternoon. So that day we plan on both Pony and I doing some solo stuff and then getting together as a full of Stars project. Whether we have a full band or not, is up in the air. It looks like we will have a full band. And then, do some listening of the new tracks that people haven't heard yet. And then on June 30th, there's a Genesis Storage art exhibit called We Are But One at Pioneer Works in Brooklyn, which I think opens in April. And we'll be doing a performance at Pioneer Works on June 30th during the period of time that exhibit is up. And for that performance, we will have a lot of ex-Psychic TV members with us. And
some family members.
Yeah, we'll definitely have the family. And we're going to do a little tribute to Genesis and to Psychic TV. And so I'm excited and I'm both excited and terrified about that.
You
show.
should come.
I'm planning on, I want to go out. I want to play a couple shows in Jersey. Like,
Do it.
I've been
Just do
trying to like with my band, trying to book. We're trying to do Weekend Warrior dashes now that stuff's kind of happening again, and I'm trying
great.
to.
I have a couch. If you all can fit on my couch.
I appreciate that. And if you guys ever come out to Cleveland, like, let me know. But
We will.
But yeah, no, definitely let's keep in touch with that. 'Cause I'm trying to go out and do some like solo stuff, and then bring the homies out and like.
Okay.
So we can at least get some chops here.
I like it. That's awesome.
This is how the team assembles. But thank you
like
guys
it.
so much for chatting with me.
Thank you.
This has been awesome. You're both a lot of fun. The new record is fantastic, and I'm excited for you guys to get to play it live and share the whole thing. So thank you. Thank you for spending some time with me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day, too.